All right, let's talk about choosing an investment market. This is a big one. I get asked a lot of questions around this. I'm not going to go into all the stuff, but I'm just going to give you my kind of cliff notes. And again, it's, you got to talk to people. When I started out, I looked at a bunch of different markets, okay? I'm going to probably offend some of you. Just get prayer from the person next to you. There's three things that I look for in a buy and hold market, okay? We're going to talk about buy and hold now, not fix and flip, okay? Again, fix and flip, I think, if you're starting out, is not, you don't want to be doing that, right? Unless you've got partners to work with. Then buy and hold is pretty simple for most people. So buy and hold is really you buy it, you rent it, you hold it for a period of time. So these are the things I look for. Population growth. Is the city growing? Is it consistent, right? Because what you see is there's growth, and then something goes wrong. Why do I want population growth in a market I'm going to buy and hold in? Property values? It's really just demand, right? Houses have people in them. If there's no people, they don't need houses. I know, right? It's like some of the other stuff we talked about earlier. They're just basic principles, but you need people, right? So if people are moving into town, they're going to have demand for housing, which is just great. But you want it to be consistent growth. Sometimes, and this is where I'll use the example in the bottom, diversified economy, but basically what you see is people come in and then they drop off. They might have come in artificially, right? There was a place in Australia that we used to live at, we were up in Townsville, but there was a town called Moranbah. You can look it up. It's difficult to spell and not very fun to go to, but it's a very small town, and houses went from $300,000 to $1 million, like literally overnight. And when I say overnight, I mean probably over the period of like 3 months. I'm not kidding. $300,000 to $1 million. Reason why is that Australia exports a lot of things like natural gas and coal and so on. We're a heavy export country. And so at the time, a mine had opened up in Moranbah. And the problem with mines, especially with Australia, people don't realize it's 7/9 the size of the US. In other words, if the US is 9 of something, Australia is 7 of that 9. So we're big. We're only like 26 million people. And you guys are like 320, right? So like we're a really big country, which means there's not a lot of people in between. So what ends up happening is these mines open up and they're billion-dollar projects, 2, 3, 4, 5, $20 billion projects over 20 years or something, right? So guess what happens when they discover, whether it be coal or whether it's, natural gas or whatever it might be. They open this mine, everyone flocks in because the bus drivers are making 100 grand a year. Electricians are making 150. Well, guess what happens? They come to town. There's no housing because it's like house in the middle of nowhere. So they rent a room for $2,000 a week, okay? So if you've got a 4-bedroom house and you're getting 8 grand a week, are you going to pay $1 million for it? Yeah, right? Great return. Then the mine closes down because the Chinese put an import tariff on our coal. And the people doing the mine go, well, there's no point. We're paying X amount, paying whatever, I'm making this up, $50 to extract a ton of coal, and they're paying us $30 for it. So what they do? They shut the mine down. Guess what happens to the houses that are worth $1 million? And back to 300. It's not an investment, it's speculation. Most of the people that buy that are dumb people from out of state. That someone slick comes through, says all the right stuff. This is and then they'll say things that this is even true. Like it's a $20 billion project. It's for 20 years. Yeah, and that is true. But what happens if the mine shuts down? Yeah, people don't think about that. So when I look at investment markets for buy and hold, I'm looking for natural growth. Is the Springs and Woodland Park, but more so the Springs a good place to live? For those of you who live in the Springs. Okay, I don't want to start a Woodland Park, Springs. It's like East Coast, West Coast rap battle, Like, right? Springs is a nice place to live. Why? Because it's got mountains, right? It's got clean air. It's got good quality of life. I mean, if you can breathe at altitude, right? But there's a lot of good things about living in the Springs. People will naturally want to come here, right? There's lots of places where people don't want to live. It just sucks. They're doing it because of some artificial reason. Their job's there. There's some opportunity, right? So job creation, where does job creation come from? From businesses, right? Who buys from businesses? Right. If I've got population growth, there's going to be a demand. Demand for what? More housing, more amenities, more food, more. So then those places start to hire to look after those people and create jobs and provide that service. And the last thing I want to do is diversified economy because, like with the oil, right? Oil dropped precipitously recently, right? And not that long ago as well, where it really got hammered. All those places where people were flush with oil cash just evaporated. So don't be in a place where the economy is reliant on 1 or 2 industries. So Columbus, I really like Columbus, and I'm going to talk about Columbus a bit more. I like Columbus because Columbus, 18% is the maximum that one industry in Columbus makes up. What that means is if retail dies, and retail is a big presence in Columbus, there's still banking. Banking is a huge presence. Insurance is a huge presence. Medical is a huge presence. They're the third largest university in the country. Right? There's 60,000 people come into Ohio State University, and on top of that, there's another 20,000 going to another 15 or 16 more fringe universities. That's 80,000 people a year coming into that town. Do you think you can get population growth? There's going to be demand for jobs? And so, if one thing is up and another thing's down, I'm not crippled if one industry falls over. I like that as a buy and hold investor. It makes me feel safe, okay?